Everybody's talking about Dyson Daniels. I haven't heard that name so much in my life. And I've been watching the young man play. But the funny thing is, despite all of these analysts talking about Dyson Daniels, all of these subreddits, all of these comments on YouTube, he's only rostered in about 58% of ESPN leagues. Let that sink in. What is happening right now? This guy, according to ESPN default settings, is the number 15 player in fantasy basketball. We need to pick him up right now. We believe every NBA fan that plays fantasy football should also play fantasy basketball. So the Dyson Daniels daggone hype train is as real as it gets. It feels like the daggone Soul Train Awards for this man. It's like I could see people coming down the line and Dyson Daniels. I don't know if it's like I'm thinking about Dyson vacuums. I'm thinking about Mike Tyson. I'm thinking about like Lee Daniels, Jack Daniels. I don't know what's happening in my mind, but this week has been crazy. And I apologize. Last week when I did my our first episodes, we didn't talk about him. So we might be a little late to the party in terms of providing that value. But I want to say this, that there are far too many leagues where he is not rostered. And we're going to talk a little bit about it today. Before we do that, I want to let you know that if we get this episode up to 100 likes on YouTube, we will be giving away one of these rookie cards. We have a LaMelo Ball card. We have an Anthony Edwards card. We have a Tyrese Maxey, a Kongwu, Vassell, the works. Now, let's jump in and talk a little bit about your boy, Dyson Daniels. So Dyson Daniels has been cooking with hot grease. There is no surprise that last season, the decision going into the offseason to move on from DeJounte Murray and really focus in on this young core of Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, led by Trae Young, was a wave here in Atlanta. And listen, I had an opportunity to see a couple of the highlights from the games and just kind of watch little nuggets. I haven't watched the full game in its entirety yet of the Atlanta Hawks. But one thing that I would say about the DeJounte Murray-less Atlanta Hawks is that the offense seems to be clicking on a different level. The speed of the offense is noticeable. Where last year, maybe when there would be a defensive rebound and they'd be coming down the court, they kind of hold it. All right, Trae would kind of wait for it, get it, bring it up the court. And it would be the same thing with DeJounte Murray if you want to go back and look at some of those games, where it almost felt like they were taking the time to set up the offense before they even brought the ball up the court. And that is not what we're seeing this season. They are cooking with hot bacon grease, moving the ball. As soon as the ball gets rebounded, they're kicking it out. And sometimes one thing that's really important to call out is that if Dyson Daniels or if Jalen Johnson get the rebound, they push the ball immediately and then look for Trae while Trae is on the move. This is leading to a lot of like early three-pointers. Like he'll come down and do one of those long logo threes. He'll pull up quick, and it just seems as if it's working well. Trae Young is starting the season very strong, and I think Dyson Daniels has a lot to do with it. Now, the question that people are asking me in a lot of spaces are, Robin, do you think this is sustainable? Robin, do you think he's going to be a top 50 player? People want to know long-term what Dyson Daniels will be and what can he do. And simply, my answer is this. Be patient, let it play out. If you have Dyson Daniels on your roster, there's going to be a game, maybe in the next couple of weeks, where he flops and you're going to think to yourself, oh, it was just a flash in the pan. He's not the truth. I would strongly recommend, if you were lucky enough to A, draft Dyson Daniels, which many of you did, or B, grab him off of waivers, make sure that you hold during the challenging weeks, because it will happen. And you don't want to be the kind of fantasy basketball player that's responding and reacting in this fashion. That will lead to you losing. You need to make sure that you don't make hasty decisions, especially when it comes to players that have contributed to you winning week to week. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything sports betting. Every stat, matchup, breakdown, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during games. With the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, MLB playoffs, NHL, NBA to political props. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. The next player we want to talk about is another must-roster player, and he's also an Atlanta Hawks player, someone who we've honestly, if you're like me and you've been playing fantasy for a while, as long as this guy's been around, we've been waiting. We've been waiting for moves to be made that would lead to him getting a runway to some fantasy value. We've been waiting for years, and finally, we're starting to see a little bit of light break through those clouds. I'm talking about your boy, one of the most amazing names in fantasy basketball, Onyeka Okongwu. Onyeka Okongwu has been going off early in the season, and it doesn't look like the Hawks really want to invest so much into Capella in terms of giving him the opportunities. And also, just from what I've seen in the highlights, Capella kind of looked like he rocking a little slow. He's not really that dude right now. So for me, I think that Onyeka Okongwu can be the type of player that long-term for the season can provide the type of value that will just kind of like make your team have the advantage because you didn't have to pay top dollar for the type of production that you're going to get from him. So for me, if you have him on your roster, I'm going to hold. If he's available on waivers, only rostered in 53.4% of ESPN leagues. Come on, man. What, like where they do that at? We got to grab Onyeka Okongwu. He is another must-roster player for fantasy basketball. The next player I want to talk about, I wouldn't really say must-roster right now, but definitely not the sexiest name for fantasy basketball. Somebody that has been habitually average, chronically meh, just been a guy. However, in his current environment, he has the opportunity to take the top off. Boobies is out, hair blowing in the wind. Convertible status. I'm talking about your man's in them from the Brooklyn Nets, Dennis Schroeder. Now listen, Dennis Schroeder is getting all kinds of opportunities in Brooklyn. I don't know how long it will last. I don't think the Brooklyn Nets are trying to compete to win. So if you're not trying to compete to win, what do? You start Dennis Schroeder. You give him mad run, mad minutes, like usage out the wazoo. Just give him the rock. And honestly, he's been producing rather well in the early stages of the season. So for me, again, not a sexy name, not somebody that I'm super hyped about. I would not consider him a must roster at this moment for me, but he definitely is screaming, pay attention. He's definitely screaming, I could have some magic here. And honestly, the way it looks, especially for those bottom one or two slots that you have, he can definitely be a name that will be streamed in and out of your roster as this season develops. Now, we have more people to talk about. And I think the list is a little longer than normal, but sorry, I need to just get this off of my chest. And we're going to talk about the next player. Somebody that I drafted in a bunch of spots, but still not rostered in enough leagues. I'm talking about from the Los Angeles Clippers, your boy, Norman Powell. Norman Powell is only rostered in 36.4% of ESPN leagues. Let that sink in. Your man has been going off too. Like, I get it. We have the unfortunate situation with Kawhi Leonard. Like, and if y'all know anything, y'all know I've been on the hilltop. Stay away from Kawhi Leonard. People were still going into their drafts early on, drafting Kawhi like it was all good. And again, all due respect to Kawhi, I think he's an amazing talent. But when it comes to fantasy, he don't play. And you know what that equals over here? Hot dog water with the brat worst residue dripping. Ayo. I'm just saying. So now, in his first couple of games, Norman Powell went off. In his first game against Phoenix, he played 40 minutes. Yes. 17 points. Come on. 4 rebounds. Yes. 4 assists. What? And 1 block. Come on, man. And then in his next game against the Denver Nuggets, check this out. 33 minutes. Yes. 37 points. Yes. 37 points. 3 rebounds, no assists, 1 steal. Listen, I get it. Norman Powell is not a sexy name. I understand that. However, with the absence of Kawhi Leonard, and this is like for the foreseeable future, this absence of Kawhi Leonard, chances are, Norman Powell's value can be sustainable. Now, will he be dropping 57 fantasy points every single night? No. Is he going to score 37 points a game? No. But you can count on him getting those minutes. That's one thing that I think is sustainable, especially with the current construction of their roster and not having Kawhi Leonard healthy. So Norman Powell, I don't know if I would consider him must roster right now, but definitely someone you want to grab and just play it out and see how it materializes. Next player we want to talk about, the next player is from the Charlotte Hornets, a young guy getting some opportunity based on injuries. Specifically, I am talking about the point guard, Trey. Man, Brandon Miller is banged up, and a lot of you guys drafted Brandon Miller. I know you drafted him personally. You got him on your roster, and you sick to your stomach. Hey, this is an opportunity for you right here. Grab yourself some Trey, man. He's only rostered in 19.8% of ESPN leagues. Check this out. On the 23rd, first game of the season, he dropped 24 points. Next game against Atlanta, he dropped 17. And then he kept it going. On the 26th against Miami, he dropped 14 points. But check this out. 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and 1 steal. He's rolling steady, and most importantly, he is getting the minutes. Right now, he's averaging 28.7 minutes per game. Now, I don't know if this is going to be a long-term play, because when Brandon Miller returns, I don't know if Trey Mann will be able to sustain the value that he's currently producing. However, in the short term, I would definitely pick him up, see how things play out. A person you want to keep an eye on, especially over the next couple of weeks while we have no Brandon Miller. The next player we want to talk about is someone who is not as popular. So we talked about the must rosters like Dyson Daniels. I know you heard the name. Onyeka Okongwu. I know you heard the name. Maybe even Schroeder and Norman Powell and even Trey Mann. This guy people are not talking about as much from the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm talking about your man, Air Jordan Hawkins. Hawkins is only rostered in 13.1% of ESPN leagues. Widely available. He's available in a lot of spots. And they have a pretty jam-packed schedule for week 2 in terms of games. The Pelicans, I believe, have 4 games this week. And he's been rolling. In his first game of the season against Chicago, he played 28 minutes, 13 points, 7 rebounds, an assist, and a block. Second game of the season against Portland, 29 minutes, 24 points, 5 rebounds, And then in his last game on the 27th against the Portland Trailblazers, again, 34 minutes. High minutes equals production in a points league. 17 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, no steals, no blocks, but that's okay. That's okay. So what does that mean for you? He's averaging 30 minutes a game right now. Yes, we have DeJounte Murray out. Jordan Hawkins might have value until that return, but pay attention to it. He might have a little bit of a roller coaster ride depending on how things, flow in the next couple of weeks. But so far, so good. He's coming out rolling early on. So this is somebody that, again, folks are not talking about as much. Someone that you might want to pick up just to see how he does over the next couple of weeks. Next player we want to talk about is from the Milwaukee Bucks. Again, not someone that I'm hearing his name as much as the others, but still worth a look. I'm talking about Taurean Prince. Taurean Prince is just rostered in 12.5% of ESPN leagues. So far this season, he's averaging 31.3 minutes per game. So, points leagues managers, pay attention to that. That's one of the things that you really need to look at when you're viewing players to add to your roster for the long term. And I'm not saying Taurean Prince would necessarily be that type of long-term hold, but definitely someone that you want to grab and just kind of hold to monitor to see if he can sustain this production. On the 23rd of October in their first game against Philly, he played 30 minutes, 16 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and totaled 36 fantasy points. On the 25th against Chicago, 30 minutes. On the 27th against Brooklyn, 34 minutes. He's getting the run. So he might have a dud here and there. If you've been around for a while, you've had Taurean Prince on your team. If you haven't played fantasy for a while and maybe this is your first year, Taurean Prince can provide value if he gets minutes. The issue is that over the years, he's never really been a featured player, and that's why he hasn't been able to sustain his fantasy value. This is a new environment for him in Milwaukee, and I think if he can keep that 31.3 minutes per game average, that he can definitely give you a huge return on picking him up for free off of the waiver wire. We still got more, y'all. We rolling. The next player we want to talk about is from the Denver Nuggets, a player that I keep thinking about picking up, but I'm leaning more towards it now, especially going into this week as we approach week 2. I'm talking about Christian Braun. He's only rostered in 13.7% of ESPN leagues. Somebody that folks were grabbing with that last pick in their draft. And he's having a really solid start to the season. On the 24th versus OKC, he had 29 minutes, 16 points, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, and check this out. Listen up close. 2 blocks. He followed that up with a game on the 26th of October, 34 minutes. Yes. 11 points. Yes. 7 rebounds. Come on. 1 assist and 1 steal. Okay. And check this out. Again, 2 blocks. So he's starting the season off averaging 2 blocks a game. Come on, man. This is something you cannot, overlook. This is something you really want to lean into and pay attention to, because whether it's sustainable or not, I don't know. But I do know in the short term, until he shows me that he's not going to get 2 blocks a game, then I'm going to just hold on to him and see how he does. So far, so good. He's averaging 31.5 minutes per game. Definitely a player we want to take a look at. The next player we want to take a look at is someone who should be on rosters, but kind of gets a bad rap. Just recently got a pretty good deal, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know why he's not on more rosters. When I saw his roster percentage, I was like, what's happening here? I'm talking about from the Orlando Magic, Wendell Carter Jr. He is only rostered in 17.3% of ESPN leagues. He is averaging 29.7 minutes per game, so he's getting the minutes. In his first game against Miami, he finished 27 minutes, 8 points, 14 rebounds. Next game against Brooklyn, 31 minutes, 8 points, and 11 rebounds. There's a theme here, right? Then Then on the 26th of October against Memphis, 3 points, meh, 10 rebounds. Your man is averaging 11.7 rebounds to start the season. So this is something that's noteworthy. You want to make sure that if you need to stream him in here and there, that's fine. But he might be a player that you want to hold long term and just see how things materialize. See if he can get that 6.3 points per game that he's averaging up to maybe 10. If he can get that 1.3 steals, if he can sustain that 1.3 steals per game, he could be a really valuable asset. Now that you know which players you need to pick up in week 2, check out this episode so you can learn more about streaming. This episode was presented to you by BetOnline.